Okay, hello, everybody. We've got 10 o'clock on the dot. We'll go ahead and get started. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions
Recording and you want
and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to our county manager, Don Boone, for his update.
Thank you, Chair Quayle, members of the board. As you may know, the agenda is going to change slightly this morning. Anthony is sick today, county council, and so the
I'm not hearing any sound. Can I be heard?
Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you virtually. This is Katie Pritchard.
Okay, and Chris, we heard you, yeah.
You just want me to continue, Chair?
Yes.
I'm going to try to restart my meeting.
Okay. All right.
So
Go ahead.
Anthony Pope is unable to join us, so we'll have to reschedule the ethics training for when he is available. Apologize for that. The other is I just want to thank and recognize our public health leadership and staff for the open house that they put on yesterday. It was great attendance. And Jen Chang will be coming to an upcoming board meeting also to talk about some recent health data for the county. And so I think that'll be an interesting discussion into some of the things that the public health department and the community will be collaborating on to kind of move the needle on some of those health indicators. So there'll be a lot more conversation, but they did a great job, and I just want to recognize them for that. And that's all that I have, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Don. And we really do appreciate Jen Chang's work on this. And I know that there's appreciation from the hospitals as well, that he's making this effort to coordinate and collaborate with all of the entities throughout the county. And I do want to welcome all the members of the Planning Commission and the Fair Board that have joined us. Unfortunately, yeah, as Don mentioned, Anthony Pope isn't available to do our ethics training today. So we will have a rather short meeting, it looks like. We'll go ahead and move on to the land use planning work plan on page 4. And our community development director, Gail Henriksen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, board and planning commission members. We're here today to talk about the proposed work plan for land use planning for fiscal year 23-24. And we started doing this as a department in conjunction with your board's strategic planning efforts that began in 2020. And part of the purpose of our work plan is to make sure that we're working in coordination with the board and to help us with our budgeting and our resource and focus areas as a staff. And so we've been doing this, as I said, starting in 2021, beginning fiscal year 21-22. So this is our third plan that we've done. And this year we really wanted to be able to have some time to sit down with your board and the planning commission so that the two of your organizations or your groups can have a discussion and help us as staff focus our efforts. And so you'll see in your copy of the work plan that's included in the agenda that it's organized into 9 separate tasks. And they're listed here not in any order of priority, but just as they happen to pop into my head as I was working on the plan originally. And so you'll see that in addition to things like the comp plan and the mandatory requirements that we have to do every year, that we've also included your 5 strategic focus areas from your strategic plan as well. And then you'll see under each task several tasks that are associated with that staff would work on throughout the year. And then finally, at the end of the plan, you'll see a subtotal that lists out FTEs and a dollar amount. And so the FTEs are a guide for us and also a guide for the public to kind of understand the workload that our planning staff carries. And so if every item were to be accomplished on this plan in the next fiscal year, it would be as if our 4 planning staff members had done the work of almost 14 full-time employees. But in reality, what will happen is projects will get staggered, some will move up on a priority list, some may drop down on the priority list, and not everything will get worked on or completed during the upcoming fiscal year. But it's just a gauge for us to kind of judge what our workload is and let the public know what we're doing. And then the dollar amount that's listed there is additional funding that's requested above and beyond our base funding for the next fiscal year. And in this proposed work plan, it's $295,000. We did have that amount also budgeted for this current fiscal year, but the projects that were proposed were delayed slightly. And so while we will still be picking them up probably near the very end of this fiscal year, they will roll over into fiscal year 23-24. And so the $295,000 includes $200,000 for consultants to update goals 16, 17, and 18 of our comprehensive plan, which cover estuarine resources, coastal shorelands, and beaches and dunes. These are very technical goals and beyond the expertise of planning staff that we have. So we had budgeted for those this current fiscal year, and we're requesting to roll those over into next year. And then $95,000 we're requesting from our video lottery funds to conduct an economic opportunities analysis. And that is something that would tie into goal 9 of our comprehensive plan, which is economic development. And an economic opportunities analysis basically will take a 20-year look at the employment and job trend needs of unincorporated Clatsop County and help us identify areas where we need to make zoning changes, upcoming trends in the employment sector, areas that may be experiencing difficulties. And I think that especially as we move forward with a lot of fiscal uncertainties approaching over the next several years, I think this is a good time to really take that project on as well. So today, what I would like from your board and from the Planning Commission is some discussion about the items that are included in the work plan. And specifically, staff is looking for some direction on the 3 following issues. First of all, we want to make sure that the items we've included in the work plan are the ones that are consistent with your priorities. And then from those items, we would like to know maybe your top 5 to 10 that you would really like staff to focus on in the upcoming fiscal year. And then finally, if there are any other projects that we haven't thought of or aren't aware of or haven't included in our work plan, if you could identify those for us as well so that we get them included. And so that is my very quick presentation, but I am happy to answer questions and expound upon anything that you would like to know about, especially since I have Anthony's time now. So, but that's really it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Director Hendrickson. So I'll open it up to all the Planning Commission and County Commission board members to ask any questions at this time and then provide any input. And if you don't mind raising your hand, thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Webb?
Thank you, Chair Corella. There's an item that that I guess this was the last thing you asked us for, Gail, but I think it's appropriate to bring it at the beginning, is something that I think is missing, and that is with the election about 2205 pending, whether or not it passes, we will have responsibilities to go back and take a look at the main deficiency in that ordinance, which was the issue of capping STRs. And I wonder if there is anywhere in the work plan that you have provided for perhaps having to address that.
So I think about it, Commissioner, I think that maybe I had a Freudian slip and may have unintentionally left it out of the work plan, but you're correct, that does need to be included.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Director Hendrickson, I see Christopher Farrar.
Good morning. I have a real general question. It has to do with the fact that this is kind of a wish list, and most wish lists are or to-do lists are much longer than anybody can ever handle. I'm confused, though, how you handle the excess in the need of FTE versus what you have in FTE to get the work done. There's a couple of subtasks that seem to be critical functions that can't be ignored. And one of those would be task 7, legislated mandates, where you have to meet the processing applications in a certain amount of time, and that amount alone for subtask A there is 4.5 FTEs. So can you explain a little bit how we get around that? Do you just work people overtime, or what? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Farrar. So no, we don't do overtime, and we generally don't have a need to do compensation time for people unless they're attending an evening meeting or a weekend meeting or something in conjunction maybe with the comp plan update or a board meeting. So it's listed as 4.5 FTEs because that is the total number of planning staff that we have who process applications. So that includes our planning manager, our senior planner, our 2 planners, and then myself, which I am dedicated half-time to the planning division, in addition to overseeing building codes and code compliance. And so every time that we touch an application, that 150-day deadline kicks in. So we're all required to do it. And it really will vary from year to year what that workload includes, because it is very much market and economy driven. The number of applications that we receive, so it does fluctuate, but that is always a top priority for us. And so if our volume of applications increases, the number of other projects that we can pay attention to at any given time will decrease. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question or provides the information you were looking for.
That pretty much answers it. It's just that it would be interesting to see what the total number of FTEs on sort of the required stuff that's in this work plan. And I went through and kind of tabulated some of those totals, and I put them under the category of must do, and there's some other ones with smaller numbers of FTE, and it's almost 5 FTEs for that alone. So if you think maybe you're only going to use 2 out of that really for the coming year, then it kind of gives you an idea that maybe what other additional work can get done. Maybe I'm thinking about it too much as a math problem, and you have another way of handling it, but I'll leave it at that. You gave me some good input. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Farrar. Commissioner Banks.
I mean, in my personal opinion, I think we need to put economic development a little higher on the list of priorities, especially in the realm of conducting a review of our current barriers to development, considering we need such a plethora of housing, but we also need an influx of economics into our county. And so I feel like personally, I would like to see that moved a little higher on our list of priorities.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Any other comments at this time, questions? Okay, going back to the list of questions that Director Hendrickson put together, there are the tasks listed above consistent with the priorities, and Commissioner Banks has just weighed in that she thinks economic development should be added as a higher priority item. Any other comments on the priorities and the tasks, Commissioner Webb?
Thank you. Well, I think that the fact that we're going to be hiring a consultant to do a pretty aggressive economic analysis puts the whole issue of economic development at the top of our listings. So I think that's a pretty rigorous commitment to that, especially because it's something I believe in as well, very, very strongly. And in general, I'm very impressed with the fact that we do have one one department which strives to do a work plan that reflects the strategic planning of the board. And I thank you very much. I certainly would love to see more from departments about the board's priorities. And I think this is a very nicely enriching. It's also, I think, a wonderful indication of how spread out our staff work is among many different things. And I can tell you as a former county planning director that it's very difficult often to assign various kinds of responsibilities to individual task members, because I think private industry shows us that that assigning people to one task dedicated 24/7 is the way to raise productivity. But so I think this is a real indication of how diverse and multi qualified, I guess, our planning staff is. And I think it's a wonderful document in terms of a public explanation of how tax dollars are spent and what the outcomes will be. So I think it's wonderful the way it's presented. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, Commissioner Webb. Any other comments at this time? Chair Farrar.
As far as priorities, I think one thing to think about is a few of these subtasks are shown to be the planning staff working with another department in the county, especially emergency management, and there may be another department or two. I think those should be high priorities to put time on that, because you're interfacing two departments at the county level that need to get their work done. So there should be an emphasis on trying to contribute what's needed by those other departments from the planning staff. Otherwise, you have one department that's lacking something it needs in support, not getting it. So it makes the county's government run more smoothly if they work together. And the other is, I'd make all those RFP tasks, subtasks, very high priority, because there you've got some money, you can put it out to consultants to get some work done. And so there should be a real push to get those done right away. And it kind of is a good investment to get the work accomplished. So I would say that those are high priorities, and that's especially true of that economic development one. I would say that that's the first thing to get done before you look at the other subtasks in economic development. So that's all I have.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Farrar. Anyone else who'd like to weigh in on the priorities? How about things that might be omitted or not part of this list? Anything that we think needs to be added? Commissioner Webb, did you have your hand up there?
Yeah, well,
Commissioner-
I just want to say that I'm sorry I jumped the gun, but my first comment was that I think we need to add a response to the to the upcoming election on 2205.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Banks.
I just want to think about potentially adding in the social interaction with community or governance, that this department, the planning department, is our one positive or hopes to be positive interaction with the community. Other interactions that we have with the community as a county are often in the judicial system. And so I would really like to add in there just a focus on positive interactions with the community, having a tone of how can we help you accomplish your project? How can we help you reach your goal? And so have it be more, and I don't know how to verbalize that. I mean, in hospitals and in hospitality, it's customer service. And so I'm not sure how to label that in the planning department. But how can we make interactions in the planning department with our developers, but also with our general public, that really positive interaction. So.
Yeah, and customer service would apply here as well, Commissioner Banks. So I think that's the appropriate term.
Any other comments, questions? Anyone from the Planning Commission that would like to weigh in? Well, I appreciate the discussion. I think there's been some very good suggestions, but I echo the comment that this is a lot of work that Director Hendrickson and the staff has embarked on and put together. I think a fantastic plan. It's nice to have this to be able to reflect and see how it matches up. And again, I can't take issue with hardly anything in here. I think it reflects really what we're trying to achieve. And again, appreciate Director Hendrickson laying it out for us and having an opportunity to review. Any other comment on the work plan? Chair Farrar.
Just one quick thing on, we still have another, I don't know what it is, three months of this fiscal year left practically. So I'm wondering how far we may get on some of those comp plan issues. I know that's being worked on at various levels right now, and I'm wondering, as we approach the next fiscal year, will we be significantly along our way to finishing up with those goals that we've done that we're not contracting out?
So I can address that question, Chair Farrar. Over the course of this fiscal year, as you're aware, I've been providing quarterly updates to both the Planning Commission and to the board about where we are on each of those work plan items. For your April 11th meeting, the agenda just went out yesterday, and there is the third quarter update that's included in your Planning Commission agenda package. And I'll also be sending that to the county manager so he can forward it on to the board as well, so they get the same update that you're receiving. With regard specifically to the comprehensive plan update, we did do a work session with the board on March 15th. And at that time, the board gave us direction to go ahead with the revisions that we had made and to bring those back to the Planning Commission for a new set of public hearings and then back to the board. And so we do have that scheduled to go back to the Planning Commission for a public hearing and a recommendation, and that will occur on May 9th at your regular meeting. And then we would have potentially 2 public hearings before the board in June. So hopefully those would be completed by the end of this fiscal year.
So that's quite a big chunk of the FTE here in this overall plan that might be almost completed by the end of this fiscal year. So that's good news.
Yes, you will hear shouts of joy from the planning department when that happens.
All right, any other comments, questions? If not, thank you very much, Community Development Director Henriksen. Appreciate the report and the opportunity to review. And
Thank you both to the board and the planning commission. And I did just want to give a shout out to my staff because they do the bulk of the work that's in that work plan. And so I wanted to thank them very much.
absolutely, yes. Yeah, please relay our thanks to the staff as well. And thanks to the Planning Commission. I'm sorry that we don't have more on the agenda today, but we will reconvene and do the ethics training at a later date. Anything else, County Manager?
Patrick, I just want to mention, Commissioner Webb kind of mentioned it too, regarding other work plans from the department. And part of what we've been transitioning to as part of the budget process is to have work plans from the departments that encapsulate what their current work is, what some key indicators are, and then what some of those challenges are moving forward. And so as part of the budget process, your board will be exposed to a lot more of those from the individual departments. I will say it's all iterative. The budget's being done without a finance director, and so we are pushing forward, but we won't be exactly where we want to be the first year, but there will be a lot more like what Gail just presented from the other departments. So thank you.
Thank you, County Manager. We appreciate what's being done with the short staff. Anything for the good of the order? Okay. Well, really appreciate everybody being here, and hope that you have a good rest of your Wednesday. And we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you very much.